I want to get my business message out there. We're doing great things for our clients. Let's talk about the storytelling as far as that goes. Is it different?
I always say, consistently tell your story. Drop those breadcrumbs along the way. Even if you post a little thing about your business every day or a little thing about you. I mean, you do a great job of this, Mark. I mean, people start to know you and your brand and they connect with you. They want to get advice from you. And so consistently showing up, I think, just starts to create more of brand recognition. So, for example, if you have a winery, there's a million wineries. What makes your winery different? Well, your family story. Maybe your family has lived in Lodi for 35 years, and this winery has, 8 generations of wine growing. Oh, and by the way, you're also philanthropic and you give back to these organizations. And wow, look at the process. Pull the curtain back. Show them what you do day to day. And it doesn't really take that much, honestly, Mark, to just get on social media and show pictures, show the faces, the people behind your brand, what you're doing. And those are the things I think that really bring people in.
Well, what if you don't, in your business, you don't feel like you are the best representation of the brand? Maybe you're a little bit older, but you've got up and comers. Is it okay to allow your teammates to get that spotlight? Is that helpful?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that's even better. I mean, if you go back to a winery, let's say you're 80 years old, you got a great story. Maybe definitely don't hide from that. I think that's cool. Like you are really maybe the face or the name of the business. But I also kind of want to meet John, who's in the back making the wine. And I want to meet Kristen, who is working with the customers, or maybe Jim's out on the farm every day. I want to see those different parts and those different people that make up your company.
I think you can consider me very fired up this morning, as usual, but maybe a little bit more fired up today. I've got Kellie DeMarco in the house. She has started her own entrepreneurial venture, and she's an expert on helping us business people or us entrepreneurs try to figure out how to get our messaging across. I think at some level we've all become media companies in a way. If you are a business, you are having to figure out, how am I going to be a media company in order to get myself noticed? And so today we're going to be talking about, how do you get through the noise? There's so much, media has become so broad and so many people trying to get out there and get their message across. But how do you do that? And I think Kellie, with her background, I'm going to give you a few of her stats before we bring her on here. So 20 years as a television news anchor here in the region. And she's famous here in the Sacramento region. She's a 3-time Emmy Award winner and news anchor, 2-time Edward Murrow Journalism Award, multiple American Women in Radio and Television Awards, been telling stories for quite a while. It's hard to believe you've been doing it 20 years, Kellie. Well, thanks for joining us on the Mark Haney Show. Welcome to entrepreneurship, by the way.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I can't believe your setup. I mean, your listeners know you and see you, but if you see the setup, I mean, you have a major operation here.
We have to. I want no excuses. If I suck on my attempt here, it's not because I don't have all the right setup, right?
Yes,
it's going to be totally in me. I'm going to blame it on the guy that I see when I look in the mirror. So, okay, but let's get to know you. There may be a few people out there in Sacramento that don't know your background. And then what's this Kellie DeMarco communications gig you got going?
Yeah, life has changed dramatically. And by the way, thank you so much for having me on your show. I love your show. I love to, just in this new venture for me, I love to absorb all the information I can from all different kinds of entrepreneurs. So thank you for this service of just giving all the information to folks. So yeah, I've been in news for almost 20 years. I worked at KCRA for about 8.5 years as one of the main anchors. And I came here from Denver. Like most TV journalists, you kind of move around and work your way up these small TV markets. And then once I finally got, I guess, to my peak, I just was kind of looking around and I saw my life changing a little bit with family and the things that I wanted. And I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs can relate. A little more flexibility would be great, a little more control of your destiny. And so here I am. I quote unquote retired from news at the end of the year, 2019. And then January 1, I jumped on the entrepreneurial boat, as you will, and started my own company. So,
Well, what's the emotion? I know I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and I've started a few businesses, and sometimes there's a mixture of emotion. So, how about
yeah.
for you? Are you feeling nervous, or is it just excitement?
a little bit of both. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous, just because you're flexing a new muscle, right? I mean, you do the same thing for years and years, and you start to get better at it, and you really feel like you've perfected your craft in certain ways. And then you take a pivot, and you got to learn how to use the best gifts that you have, but also continue to learn and continue to challenge yourself. And I think that so far has just been that kind of fire that lights me up in the morning.
Yeah. Did you see an opportunity? You said you're kind of going out on top, right? Everybody knows you. You're number one in the market and so on. And then you decide to take the entrepreneurial leap. Describe what went into that timing. Was it more family and freedom, or was there an opportunity, market opportunity?
I made the opportunity for myself. I mean, I would say the last year, I really started thinking about doing something different and allowing myself to be home a little bit more at night. I mean, when you're on the news, the evening news, you're in at work at 3 and you're basically there sometimes till midnight. We get an hour break. And that was really tough to see my daughter. She's in kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
And I come home and eat real quick and try to get her ready for bed. And then I'd have to go back to work. And it's just, I think life, no matter what job you do, things just kind of work until they don't. I loved working at KCRA. It is just so fun to work at a place that has it together. Everybody truly gets along. They really know what they're doing. And so it was a tough decision to say, I'm going to step out of this. And like you said, we're the number one station. And I just had some really good mentors who told me, I think you should start your own company. I was kind of thinking maybe media relations and that public relations, which a lot of TV people do. But I really had some good mentors pushing me in that direction. And I just decided, okay, this is what I'm doing. And I set myself up for the past 6 months every day working on a website and a logo. And who are these first clients going to be? And what is my mission? And what is this all going to look like? And so that by the time I was ready to say goodbye, I wasn't just like jumping off a cliff. At least it was like a small hill, but it wasn't a total leap.
Well, what problem? So a lot of times when we start a business, we see an opportunity or a problem that needs to be solved. For you, as you look out into the business landscape, us business people, you're solving a problem for us.
Yeah.
How would you describe the problem you're solving?
I think there's a couple of things that I noticed. One, as you know, Mark, I mean, the media landscape has changed dramatically. And one of the things, and this is, one of the things I have on my website is that, people, the old way of getting attention from the media would be to spend all this time crafting the perfect press release and emailing it in or faxing it in, remember?
Yes.
And I saw it time and time again, even across my own email and my news desk, not even the main hub of the newsroom. There were just hundreds, if not thousands, that just got deleted.
Okay.
There's just so much going on that we have to cover. And honestly, those companies I knew were doing great things and they just didn't make the cut, And I felt like, gosh, there's a lot of people, a lot of businesses, a lot of nonprofits doing really good things and nobody knows about it because they just don't know how to get that attention. And so I kind of saw just an opportunity to say, I've helped a lot of nonprofits and I think I can really continue to help people get their message heard.
Okay, well, let's talk about that a little bit. Maybe make it educational. There's business people that are tuning in or trying to get some education. How do you do that? So you got those 1,000 that come across the desk and they get shuffled away. How do we get ourselves noticed? Are there sort of tricks or key steps?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think for me, seeing how it's worked these past 20 years, I just have a lot of contacts. So it's easier for me now to reach to the right people. But I think now it's more being relatable. If you're especially a service company, people want to know who you are. They want to know what your story is. And it's kind of like going into an interview. If people don't know all the good things that you're doing and you're not going to tell them, then they're not going to figure out who you are and how to reach you. And so, yeah, I think that there's certain ways to, not just it's like sending a resume out into an online, black hole. I think you have to reach the right people in a newsroom, whether that be a specific reporter or the assignment desk, and really try to make your story, your company relatable to people.
Okay. Well, we're kind of talking about a couple of things here. So how to get the story out, and then kind of the media landscape today. So how practical is it for us to, even if we craft the ideal message to get into a newsroom and get maybe noticed, how practical is it for a KCRA or one of the other channels to pick it up? And is that really, how big of a deal is that to us in our business?
Well, I think if you're a local company, that makes a huge difference. And we all kind of say, gosh, I don't know where news is going really 10, 20 years down the road, right? But I think there will always be a need for local news. People want to know what's going on in their community. So if you're, let's say, a service-based company and you're like you, Mark, you like to help veterans, and you have a service that really is solving a problem, instead of saying, hey, come to my new office that opened up, why don't you contact a reporter and say, hey, John Smith just got out of the military. He is, doing ABC. There's a great story to be told here. And, oh, by the way, our company can offer this service for other veterans like this person.
Okay.
And so taking a different approach by, getting the heart of what your company is about, people can relate to that. Does that make sense?
Yes. So I'm thinking of an example of maybe how to do it wrong. Hey, I have a new store opening. Do I tell you somebody's opened up a second location? Is that's not something that is newsworthy in most media companies, is it?
Sometimes no, but there is an example. A friend of mine, same thing. He's in public relations, and one of his clients said, "Hey, I need your help opening up a new bar we've changed in part of their business." I'm not really sure that the media is going to cover a new bar opening, but it's a sports bar, and maybe there's a child who is with Make-A-Wish and has always wanted to meet John Elway. I'm just going to say John Elway because I'm from Denver. How about getting John Elway to come to this sports bar? You have the little kid who wants to make their dreams come true, and now it's a story that really tugs on the heartstrings of people, gets, helps that little boy and the family. Oh, and by the way, it's going to be at this sports bar that we're opening up. You kind of become the backdrop, but people recognize you as a company maybe who's helping out the community and wants to give back and wants to be a part of those stories. That is more of an impact and more of a story that the news would cover versus, hey, come to my opening Tuesday 7 to 9. The news media is probably not going to go to that.
So if I'm taking notes on this, so it sounds like it's a very personalized story.
Yeah.
It's something so it's about a person and it's some human drama. And you mentioned tug at the heartstrings. How important is it to get an emotional connection when you're telling a story?
I think it's really important. I mean, I even look back on just our newscasts, right? We're all going to be at the fires. We're all going to be at the earthquakes. We're going to be at the snowstorm. But the best stories sometimes that we covered on the news were news tips from people who had those great stories that really stop and made you say, wow, I can relate to that mother who lost her child in XYZ accident, or I can really relate to how she's feeling as a mother of my own. And those end up being the best stories I think that we tell on the news. It's not just the crime and they used to say when it bleeds it leads. We really try not to do that on the news, and we're always looking for good content and good stories. We want to tell the stories of people in our communities who are doing great things.
So you mentioned another aspect of getting on the news or making the cut, I guess. Mm-hmm. How important is the relationship? You touched on that briefly. You have these relationships. Is that an important part, or will they take? If I just find somebody at the desk and I have a compelling story, it'll fly.
I think it depends. I mean, every situation is different. What I would say is pitch the right kind of story to the right station, the right hour. So think of morning shows are usually lighter. They're more fun. They're going to want something that's really visual, fun that they can talk about and show. Nighttime, as you know, is a little bit more cut and dry. It's a little bit more pieced together. So you're probably not going to want to pitch a story about a new, painting exhibit for children that they can go out and play on a, Saturday afternoon to the 6 or 10 o'clock news. That's probably not going to fit.
If you're pitching, though, do you pick up the phone, actually? Would I pick up the phone and call somebody over at the station and tell them? Obviously, I'm not faxing and emailing because that's not going to get probably anybody's attention. How do I get the attention how do I find out who the decision maker is, and how do I communicate with that person?
Well, there's a lot of different routes. So the assignment desk, you can always call a newsroom with any kind of story tip. Even if we love to hear from people, if there's, 10 fire trucks around the corner and you just want to know what's going on, that's who you're going to call. You're going to say, hey, something's going on down the street. So you call the newsroom. The assignment desk will usually tell you to send an email with more information on it. And then every morning, the producers, the managers, the reporters get together and they talk about the stories of the day. The reporters need content. If they're not out covering breaking news, they want to tell those good stories. So I think reaching out to them individually is always good. You can contact anybody now. That's the great thing with social media, right? I can send an email or a message to any person that I see on TV, and usually they'll give you instant reply.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so some people are probably listening going, look, I don't really care that much about getting on the news. I've got a national platform I'm building, but I want to get my business message out there. We're doing great things for our clients. Maybe let's talk about the storytelling as far as that goes. Is it different?
I think it's different. Yeah. I mean, the news is one thing. I think social media is another. And if you're not keeping up with, you look around anymore. If you're not keeping up, I always say, consistently tell your story. Drop those breadcrumbs along the way. Even if you post a little thing about your business every day or a little thing about you. I mean, you do a great job of this, Mark. I mean, people start to know you and your brand and they connect with you. They want to get advice from you. And so consistently showing up, I think, just starts to create more of brand recognition. And I'm sure that you've probably learned that a lot.
You said show up. That's one of my sort of mantras is you got to show up. And I think a lot of us, we're busy. I've worked all day, but now I got to show up one more time to get known. And in your case, you've got this sort of built-in personal brand, and it's something you've earned. But for the rest of us, we haven't built a personal brand yet.
Yeah.
How important is that? How helpful is that?
I think it's helpful. I mean, think about the people that you love to follow on social media. Think about what is it that connects with them. I think for me, what I've done is picked people that I look up to or brands that I connect with. What is it that's making you connect with them? And it's usually on something that you get emotional about or you connect with someone that's maybe in your age. So, for example, if you have a winery, there's a million wineries. What makes your winery different? Well, your family story. Maybe your family has lived in Lodi for 35 years, and this winery has, 8 generations of wine growing. Oh, and by the way, you're also philanthropic and you give back to these organizations. And wow, look at the process. Pull the curtain back. Show them what you do day to day. And it doesn't really take that much, honestly, Mark, to just get on social media and show pictures, show the faces, the people behind your brand, what you're doing. And those are the things I think that really bring people in.
One of the things that I've thought was important, and I've helped people a little bit on maybe how to tell their story, was thinking about how people tell stories and who the hero of a story is. And I've told people, hey, I think the customer should be the hero, and maybe their journey and their success or their happy ending is really how we might want to portray the story. Would you agree with that, or how would you spin that?
I think so. And one of the things that you learn in news is it's always what we say when we put together stories, the best video at the top. Put your very best thing out the gate. I remember even back 20 years ago when I was sending out my VHS tapes to news directors. Don't laugh. VHS, we still used it then. And they always said, if they put your tape in the thing, if they don't see someone that they like within the first 10, 15, 20 seconds, they pop it out and goes into a pile of all those VHS tapes.
Interesting.
And it's the same now with social media. Think about that. When you're scrolling up and down, you've got to grab people right away. So what is it about your company that makes you different than others? What is it that someone walks away from and says, wow, that was really surprising, or I can't believe they did that, or what's the best little nugget? And I think with storytelling, that goes at the very top. Get people, and if it's great, if it's hit him at the top, hit him in the middle, and then remind him again at the end of what you're all about.
Interesting. Okay, can I be a guinea pig on this?
Yes.
Getting some free marketing,
Yes.
or I guess this is marketing advice, storytelling advice. Okay, so one of the things, so HaneyBiz, we're backing the hometown entrepreneur. We provide capital, expertise in this community that helps entrepreneurs be entrepreneurs. One of the new things that we're doing, we've been contemplating it, and so we're thinking about how to tell the world that we're going to try to get the money off the sidelines. We believe there's a lot of angel investor money on the sidelines. They've never done angel investing before, but if we could get some of that money, investment dollar, to be put into these local small businesses that are looking to really scale, we could transform our hometown and ignite an entrepreneurial revolution. So I want to reach out to these people who don't even know they're investors yet and say, come off the sidelines, get in the game. Any thoughts on like how to connect with that audience?
Well, first thing I will say, when I walked into the building, I mean, I was shocked at how many people are working behind the scenes, all the things that you're involved in. So let's talk about veterans. I know you're big time veterans. I love that. There are so many ways for you to tell that story with video. I think makes a huge difference. If you have an email list, let's say that you've built up for, potential investors or people who are just fans of yours, and you had a really well-made video talking about where that money goes. If I'm going to invest $10,000 in you, Mark, where's that money going? What does that look like?
Okay.
And I think for you, creating more of those videos to really show the story. I mean, just seeing the motorized wheelchair
the
there
action
in your lobby,
track chair.
Yeah. If I saw someone using that and how it's changed their life, I'm going to be more apt to help you out. I think there's a huge
show before and after.
Absolutely.
The chairs that she's talking about are, we call them action track chairs. They're wheelchairs with tank tracks who are for veterans who have been severely wounded in combat, lost limbs, but it gives them freedom. So they start off in a regular wheelchair, getting pushed around by a loved one most of the time, or maybe even a little motorized wheelchair. But when you try to go off onto the grass or go off-road at any level, you can't do it. So it really gives these people who have fought for our freedom a little bit of freedom in their own life. So,
and what a great story.
Yeah. So how would you start? So you want to get their attention right off the bat, right? Yeah. In this case, you've got people who have fought for our freedom, brave young men, and then they come back different.
Yeah.
So how would you suggest a way to grab them right away?
Yeah. So this is what I would do. And this is where I take my news experience with storytelling and video into now this business world, which is another piece of my business is video production. So I would absolutely sit down with that veteran and talk to him or her about what it was like, what happened. Walk us through a typical day, or was there something that really changed you? And if they have an injury, if they're willing to talk about it, what happened? I would certainly talk to the veteran. I would pair that with any pictures that they have. If they have a loved one here who says, gosh, John left 3 years ago. We were, as parents, just so proud of him to leave and heartbroken to know that he was this badly injured when he came back. But now we see him. He has this, energy, this light for life. And now Mark has given him this wheelchair that's allowed him to be free again. Cut to Mark saying, well, I couldn't have done it without these investors. You see how it kind of goes there?
Okay.
And so that story tells so much to me, more than just a picture or just a press release, right?
Yeah.
A story written out on a paper that's going to take me, 30 seconds to read. Do you see the difference of how that's really getting the attention?
Interesting, but it sounds, it's a lot of work. I mean, so the way you described it, you're bringing these people in, you've got to have a camera crew. I mean, how extensive, there's a lot of people that are in these small businesses. A lot of our listeners are small business people. That sounds like a major photo shoot and sounds like thousands and thousands of dollars.
No.
And I'm on a budget. How do I deal with it when I'm sort of on a budget?
Well, what's interesting is when I started looking into getting my own equipment for this job, I have photographers, excellent, some of the best in the business that I can work with to shoot some of these stories. We don't charge as much as some of these big PR firms because, well, we have a lot lower overhead and not as many people to pay. But I'm saying if you don't have the money to hire someone, the guy, when I went to talk to getting new cameras at Best Buy or what's the best kind of thing, they said, do you have the new iPhone? Yeah, I do. That's actually better video quality than a lot of these video cameras you can get. So if you're a business owner, you've got an iPhone.
That's nice of Best Buy to steer you back to your own phone.
I know. Probably shouldn't have said that. But, lighting, you don't necessarily, you've got great lighting in here. If you are a business that you're selling widgets, open up the blinds, put light on yourself, use those cameras. You can edit anything anymore in your iPhone just to get started. And I will say that getting your foot in the door, making those videos, play around with it a little bit, post some. It doesn't even have to be a major production. It could be 30 seconds of what it looked like to make your widget. Put that out on social media. And the more you kind of get further along the line, or maybe more investors, maybe that's something that you want to invest a little bit money in down the line. But I don't think it really, especially when you're trying to get off the ground, I know how hard it is and you don't have a lot of money to pay for someone to do all that. It's surprising how much you can teach yourself and learn with the tools you already have.
Well, what about those of us that are nervous about being on camera and telling a story? I know you coach people how to do well on camera. Can you give us some of the, so you're telling your story, and I know a lot of it is going to be putting other people in the story besides you, but if we're building a personal brand, we're going to have to be, we're going to have to connect with our audience.
Absolutely.
Walk us through some helpful tips on how to be good on camera when you don't look like Kellie DeMarco. I mean, a lot of us are like, okay, and I'm not saying that, I mean, you're also a great communicator and you know how to do it effectively, but I mean, how important is your approach?
It's really important. So another piece of my business is media training, and I'm finding a lot of people need that help because they don't know where to look, what to wear, what to say, what not to say. So I would say, first of all, if you're the kind of person that doesn't like pictures of yourself or doesn't like videos of yourself, 3 words: get over it.
I was thinking the same thing.
You've got to get over it.
Oh, God.
You just, because here's the thing. I challenge you.
Because that's me. And here I am. I know.
Like
I am that guy.
I don't believe it.
Well, I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now, so you sort of get over it, right? That's kind of the thing.
But doesn't it get easier? You do. But here's the thing: is when people see your face, Mark, they relate to you so much more. Look back in your feed. I challenge you to look back. Anyone listening, look back in your, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and look at all the posts you've ever done. Now go to the posts of the ones of your face or something that you shot of yourself and look at how many likes are on those pictures versus the picture you took of some meal you ate at, vacation. People love to see you. They want to learn about you. They want to learn about your business. So I jokingly say get over it, but you have to kind of get beyond being nervous. The more you do it, the easier it gets. So I would say what I, tell people who are learning from me to be on camera, first, what is it? What's that message that you want to share with your audience? What is it about your service that you want to get across? Make 3 little points about, okay, what problem are you fixing in your business? What is it all about? Get those points, practice those points over and over, and figure out a way to get that message in all of the pictures or video. Try to get that message to look the same. Sit in front of a window, get good lighting. Don't sit in like the corner of your living room and try to get good lighting.
Okay.
Brush your hair, Mark.
Brush
your hair.
I still got the same haircut as I had since high school, so it's awkward.
Yeah.
But, okay, so I'm going to try to break this down a little bit. Okay, so first of all, get over it, and you got to just start doing it. And I was nervous. I still am at some level, but not like I was,
Yeah. But it gets easier, right?
Yeah, it gets way easier. So I can attest to that. Were you ever nervous, like at the beginning when you first started?
Absolutely.
Really?
You should see my first TV clips. I sent to my parents. My first TV job was in Grand Junction, Colorado, which is like market 100 and something. And I had no idea. I was like, I think the best thing about TV, and the more you do this, Mark, is that go back and look at yourself. Immediately you'll say, Gosh, well, I was doing this too much. Or I said too much. You start to realize those little habits that you don't think are a big deal, but just look awkward on camera. So you start to kind of study yourself and think, okay, don't sit this way. Try to sit this way, and just start to look back at some of your clips. What is it that looked odd to you? Did you have like this weird thing, this weird shadow? I mean, there are little things that
Got a vein popping out of the middle of my head.
yeah,
I was
maybe
nervous.
But here's the thing. People want you to be authentic. You don't have to be made up. You don't have to look the perfect part. People want to relate to a real person. They don't want the, perfect Instagram posts that are perfectly lit with everything laid out the way it's supposed to be. Just get yourself out there. Just start doing it. And the more you do it, the easier it gets.
I would agree with that. And I'm still sort of getting over it. But I would agree with that. So what about, you think about connecting with the camera, connecting with the audience, and I think a lot of people try to read their lines. I know the news, you guys are reading lines, but you still find a way to connect. And I guess I'm assuming you're reading lines on the news. You're reading the story and somehow make it feel natural to the rest of us. But would you advise that to the entrepreneur who's building their personal brand? Do they read the lines? Do they have cue cards? Do they have bullet points? Or you've got to just sort of wing it.
Yeah, no, don't wing it.
Oh, don't wing it.
Plan.
Okay.
I say, like I said, get your talking points, but don't read. I mean, here we are having a conversation. I remember one of my first news directors said, talk to me on camera like you're talking to someone you love, like your dad. I think if you talk to your parents or your grandparents, that'll always make you, number one, keep the language clean.
Yes.
Always makes you a little bit sweeter. And you just talk to someone like you would a friend. Just talk like you're talking to a friend or your grandmother. And speak from the heart, because guaranteed, if you're an entrepreneur, you believe so deeply about what it is that you're trying to fix or sell. Speak from the heart, but also don't just wing it. You got to plan it a little bit. I'm so against cue cards, because then you feel like, oh, I got to get back to that line, or it just doesn't look natural. Think about when you're watching someone speak on stage, the people who are just speaking from the heart, it's so nice. When you see the people that are reading line by line by line, it's just like you lose them.
So if you're in the teleprompter business, you might, I shouldn't invest into a teleprompter business then, it sounds like.
No.
I actually had a guy pitch that to me within the last
There's an
few
app
months.
now, I know, that you can get the teleprompter. It's
like,
kind of
is that
cool
kinda
if you can figure out a way to do it. I mean, I've done it for so long. I think the other thing is to go into that script and don't, each anchor at KCRA, we would go into our scripts and rewrite them to be conversational. Don't make it so complicated that the typical person's not going to hear your point just walking by the TV or just sitting down. It's got to be friendly, common terms. If you don't get it when you're reading it ahead of time, your listener's not going to get it.
All right. I'm still tracking down here. Get over it. Right. Use video. Get over yourself. Get over it. Get over the nervousness. And just try it.
Yep.
But you got to plan. You got to plan it out. But then don't have it be over scripted. Speak from the heart. I love that. Talking about the problem that you're solving for your customer in your business, and usually we feel really passionate about it. I think almost all entrepreneurs feel really passionate about that. Okay.
Everyone that I've met, entrepreneur-wise, they're gonna fight to the bitter end to get this thing going, and that's the passion that people love to connect with.
So how big of a problem is it if we come across a little salesy where we're saying, okay, and now all you have to do here is click on the link and we'll get you started? Is that bad?
Doesn't that feel gross to you?
Well,
I mean, think about that.
How do you get the business if you don't ask for it?
Here's what I say. I say, serve your customers. Serve. And eventually, they're going to come to you. They're going to trust you. They're going to buy from you. I mean, you're right. I think the gift for me with being on the news is I already have people think that they know me and they trust me. They've seen me. But if you're not a person that has been seen every day, you have to find a way to help people, right? You got to serve. I think the best thing you can do is serve your customers. What's an example? I mean, you do it all the time, Mark. I mean, you are giving people lessons how to be the best version of themselves all the time, right? So when it comes down to, at the end of the line, someone's thinking, gosh, I want to take a class from him. Gosh, if he's giving me this much free advice on the radio, imagine what it would be like if I took a course from Mark. Do you offer courses, by the way?
We talk, I've got to figure that out, but I mean, we talk sometimes about clickbait or magnets, lead magnets, those kind of things. You're giving away a free ebook, or maybe it's a free class. Come down to an event. We do events is a big part of building our community.
Is good. I do think that's good.
Okay.
But I think that should almost be the last thing. If you are a fitness expert and let's say your business is, just getting people in shape, why not show up on social media and say, here's 3 tips to get you started for this new week, or here's the 3 things that you shouldn't eat this week. Just show up and give people little tidbits that they can use. And oh, by the way, if you need more help, call me. I offer this service. But don't be that guy. Don't be that girl that's like, hey, buy one, get the next. I hate that. It just makes you feel gross, right? You don't want to be gross, Mark.
Don't be gross. Okay, rule number 5, don't be gross.
Don't be gross.
Okay, so we talked about social media. We've talked about the news, being on the news. Media is so broad.
I know.
And are there certain channels? So you're a video expert, but you're also social. Right now, it's got to be social media. Are there certain channels for certain industry types that are more usable? That are more you would suggest? Like if you're doing business, should we be on LinkedIn. Or?
I love LinkedIn.
Okay.
It's funny. Before I thought about starting my business, I was never on LinkedIn just because, like a lot of people, I go to a job every day. My job's different, but I didn't really necessarily need LinkedIn being a newscaster. I mean, it was maybe kind of helpful for leads, but as an entrepreneur, that has been amazing to be able to direct message a CEO of a company. And where else are you going to get that opportunity? Where else I pick up tips on there all the time of how to do business better. So I love LinkedIn. Depending on your business, I love Instagram. It's just easy to throw up, pictures, and they say stories, those, stories at the top that disappear after a day. The majority of people are looking at stories. But again, we get kind of, I don't want to say the word screwed, but I'm just going to say it, Mark. The algorithms with Facebook and Instagram, you know how it goes. I mean, you can do all the things you think are the best way, and half of your audience doesn't even see you. So I think email lists are great. I think building those up.
Yeah, you own your own email list. You don't have to worry about if they want to unsubscribe, that's their business.
Yeah. But still, you can serve people in that way. You can give people tips that way, and you have that email capability to directly relate to your customers. I think email lists are huge. I'm learning a lot about that now, and I think then that way, Facebook doesn't control who you reach.
Yeah.
I like that.
I've been this believer that eventually there would be a trend back to face-to-face where we really have a human connection, where we've gone sort of this globalization and, you can take your message to the entire world. But we've lost some of the human connection along the way. And that eventually, because there's so much noise, the people you actually know in person are going to it's going to go back to having real value. Maybe not like it was in the 50s, but really in a way that it's not today. How would you, I guess, respond to something like that?
I think I'm with you. I mean, face-to-face is just, you can't beat that. I look at social media as kind of like the first handshake. It's like, okay, I can look into your profile. You can see what I offer. I think this might be a good fit. But then you can take it beyond social media. I mean, I think it's great for business. It's a great way to get to know people. But absolutely, don't let that face-to-face thing slip by, because it just makes so much more of an impact, I think, when you're trying to reach the right people, don't you? I just feel like social media can be so... it can be
impersonal, and I think, and there's some people that aren't into social media, but it feels like today most people are. You kind of have to have that, even if you've been sort of saying, I don't really want to be on social media. And what if you don't, in your business, you don't feel like you are the best representation of the brand? Maybe you're a little bit older, but you've got up and comers. Is it okay to allow your teammates to get that spotlight? Is that helpful?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that's even better. I mean, if I'll go back to a winery. Let's say you're 80 years old, you got a great story. Maybe definitely don't hide from that. I think that's cool. Like you are really maybe the face or the name of the business. But I also kind of want to meet John, who's in the back making the wine. And I want to meet Kristen, who is working with the customers, or maybe Jim's out on the farm every day. Like I want to see those different parts and those different people that make up your company. I love seeing all the faces in your office when I walked in. I had no idea.
Well, Brian, got my storytelling soulmate over there taking pictures. We have to get our social media to include some of our teammates.
Yeah.
I agree, Kelly. We have we've got a really cool team here, and sometimes Haney gets all the FaceTime on our social media, and our portfolio companies, but less about our team. And I have to fix that. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Any other thoughts? You're building this business. You're helping entrepreneurs. You're helping, I guess, all size businesses. Any closing thoughts to us? Anything else we should know about getting our message out there, differentiating, or not getting caught up in the noise? And I don't know, just some extra advice for us that maybe we haven't covered.
I think we're always inundated with so much. What should we do? What should we not do? What feels right? I have already found, just being in this side, the dark side of entrepreneurship, I love it, is that balance, I think, is just so huge. I don't want to get so caught up in how many posts a day and how many things we got to show up on. And it's a lot to manage. When you're an entrepreneur, as I've realized, there's no web guy to call to fix. There's no accounting department I can call up. You're in charge of so many different things.
HaneyBiz accounting.
Yes, right. I know. Maybe I should call you and get help. I know.
There he is, that gross guy asking for the order on the air.
I told you, don't be gross. But I just think at the end of the day, just be authentic. We've all got a story to tell, and I just feel like there's so much good happening in the world. The news sometimes can feel dark and gloomy, and I feel like this weight's been lifted to be able to work with people and help them do something positive, create change in whatever that business or nonprofit is. And I think just, staying positive and being authentic and telling your story, I just think it's a great way to connect with people.
Well, you are the reason. That is the reason why we started this program, is because the good stories of our region and the stories of entrepreneurship are some of the best stories in our region. When an entrepreneur succeeds, it's great for the entire town. And I think sharing those stories with our community, it was really, I felt that was a missing, it was an opportunity. And so that I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Absolutely.
But also being educational, right? We get to hear your story, get to know you a little bit, but you've educated the audience. I think we're all a little more ready to sort of get over it and get in the game. So thanks, Kelly. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for watching today's show. My goal for every episode is that you find a takeaway, something tangible you can use in your business today. And if you have a comment about a favorite takeaway, feel free to put it in the box below. And if you have a topic that you'd like me to bring up on the show, don't forget to let me know. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship. Because at HaneyBiz, we are always by your side.